Welcome to the Biohacking Addiction and Mental Wellness Summit. I'm your host, Kathy Mendes. Today, we have Sharon Laflamme with us, and our topic is Understanding Your Addiction with the Polyvagal Theory and Somatic Experiencing. Welcome, Sharon.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. I'm so delighted to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and hello to everybody that's listening. It's great to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. First, let me read your bio, and we will get right into our questions. I'm so excited. Sharon Laflamme is a facilitator, founder of Creating Serenity. She has taken her life's passion of human behavior, health, yoga, meditation, and incorporating them into creating an inner space for healing. Healing herself and others has been a lifelong passion. Her journey through childhood trauma created a need to heal. And as an empath, that meant everyone she was in contact with. She became a certified somatic experiencing practitioner where she helps transform pain into peace, where trauma symptoms resolve and clients feel integrated and whole. Vitality is restored. Clients finally feel at home in their body. She works with people with childhood trauma, resolving the many health issues that present due to the nervous system's dysregulation. She's a seeker of knowledge and evolution, a certified Kripalu yoga teacher, and with an associate degree in chemical dependency, Ayurvedic functional medicine advocate, a summit presenter, a podcast guest speaker, and she is on the board of Love Makers Foundation. So thank you, Sharon. I'm excited to dive in. So how did you become so passionate about addiction and mental illness?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because I spent my life healing from childhood trauma, and I spent my childhood growing up with two alcoholics and the mental illness that comes along with that. And it was always my drive to want them to be healed. I always knew human behavior, as you said in the bio, has always sparked me because I knew something was wrong with our nuclear family, and I knew something was wrong with them. And I always tried and wanted to heal them, but I did not succeed. But it was always my drive also to heal myself. And so therefore, it has been a longstanding love of mine to help people with addiction or anything actually. But I love addicts. I mean, they're some of the smartest, most intelligent people on the planet. And they just don't realize that their nervous system is taking over their ability to use their brain and their body to their best. And I only came to this conclusion over the last decade, probably, as I've healed and as I've used modalities like the yoga, Reiki, and somatic work, which really brings that body-based therapy into the root problem of what is really creating the addiction. Because the addiction isn't this person's problem. The addiction is their solution to their problem, meaning there's so much energy, there's so much trauma in their body, there's so much activation that they are trying to resolve that activation and feel okay in their body. So the addiction is how they feel better in their body, which is how we'll talk about the somatic work. But that's my answer.
Wow. Yeah. Sometimes, we have our stories or we need to heal. We have our stories to bring us into this healing, yeah. So
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So you mentioned in our conversation that our body is always keeping us safe without our conscious awareness or instruction. Can you expand upon that? Tell me more about that.
Sure, I would love to. So we have this beautiful nervous system and the central nervous system, and we have this autonomic nervous system, which is our periphery. And it works automatically. It's part of the limbic brain, part of the amygdala, part of the reptilian brain. So you can't talk to it. You can't think your way out of it. It's automatic. It's your response to everything. You shiver when you're cold, your heart beats without you telling it to, your reflex to hit a brake. Um, and when your body senses danger, it automatically goes into a response that we don't control. So therefore, your body's always keeping you safe. The minute you're born, you have this neuroceptive capacity. You have this central nervous system and this autonomic nervous system, and it is growing and maturing, but we still have one. So when we're, as our human bodies, our body is always looking around, orienting, deciding, am I safe in this space? And it's also saying, and it's picking up these feelings and situations, just like animals. Animals in the wild, as soon as they sense danger, they run like crazy, but we don't. We'll sit there and think our way out of this danger signal, or we've cut ourselves off to feeling these danger signals. But our body brings all this information, and especially our gut, which is where we really sense, am I safe or not? And it sends it through the vagus nerve up until the brain, and it informs us, are you safe or not safe? And this happens from the day we're born to the day we die without our conscious awareness oftentimes. And so it's is this a safe person? And when you're a little infant, it's the body's looking for, is this a safe person that can nurture me and keep me safe or not? And throughout our life, this is always going on. And are we safe or are we not? And when we learn to listen to the signals that our body's telling us, we can become whole again. And trauma pulls us away from our body, takes away some of our choices, numbs us, disassociates us, and we lose that capacity to really know and love what this interoceptiveness, which is our inner feeling, and our neuroceptiveness, which is our body's ability to know on an animalistic, instinctual way. It's not something we think about.
Yeah, I guess it's like fight or flight. It's like we just sort of instinctively go to those feelings or not feeling and numb out sometimes.
And
right?
so the younger the nervous system, the less capacity it has to deal with any trauma, because trauma isn't an event, it's what happened to you. So you, as a person, may be listening to the summit and you might be having some addiction and mental illness issues. People should be asking, what happened to you? Because somewhere, Gabor Mate says that every addict has childhood trauma. Somewhere in your history, most likely, your body went into a danger, threat, survival response. And you've spent your life trying to feel okay in this body. Because when you're very, very young, it doesn't take a lot for this body, this nervous system, to be overwhelmed, overstimulated, too much, too fast. So it often will go into a freeze state, which most of us have been living in. And that can look like depression, not wanting to get out of bed, lack of energy, totally not interested in any activities of life. That's your nervous system putting you in a dorsal vagal reflex, because the amount of electricity, the amount of activation in your sympathetic drive, and that's your survival response, which we'll talk about, that is so overwhelming to this body that it has to shut it down to save it. It's always keeping us safe. And when that body either heard this loud noise or heard their parents yelling or saw something that was too much or got violated in their body against their will, the nervous system rises up, right, to say, keep us safe. So the things that happen, the blood pressure raises to fuel your body's ability to fight or flee and run like crazy. The brain gets cut off because you don't need to think, which is why you can't talk to somebody who's had a lot of trauma in a traumatic state, or a toddler off on their tantrum, because the brain gets shut off. The body has to respond by calming, but the brain gets shut off to survive whatever this threat, perceived or non, there, or even thought perceived. So the blood pressure raises, the heartbeat comes quick, the breath becomes quick and shallow. The eyes start to narrow and focus on that predator, that threat. The ears start listening for just deep predatory sounds. It doesn't listen to the whole spectrum of what's going on any more than the eyes are going to look at the whole spectrum of life. When we're safe and happy, we see more and we do more. So the gut gets shut down so that we often will have diarrhea or constipation. That's the reptilian, like diarrhea out, we got to fight or flight, right? Because the gut doesn't need to digest food when we're in a survival state. The endocrine system is coursing adrenaline and cortisol and epinephrine into us to get us ready to fight. It is not preparing us for relaxation or have a baby or anything else. Our hormones get disrupted, right? The whole body responds in this survival state. And living in this high active state is not healthy, which creates so many concerns. And we start creating all these adaptations to feel better in our body. And addiction is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how, like, when we feel so nervous, you mentioned about the nervous system, and people just want to use alcohol or drugs or something just to calm things down. And when we always feel like we just want to run, or run from so that we're not going to die or something, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Well,
So
and that's exactly it. People don't understand how much this relates to survival. The survival instinct is so strong that a mother will pull a car off of her baby. That's how strong these hormones and things in our body. That's how powerful our automatic nervous system is. So when you're very young and your life is threatened and you have nobody there to help you, which is a whole nother thing, attachment disorders and things. But if we're not safe, nobody's there to say, don't worry, I've got you. Don't worry, you're going to be okay. We're living in this state of, oh my gosh, I got to take care of myself. I've got to live, and I don't know how to do it by myself. And that energy is what spurs a lot of us on to be really strong, left-brained, powerful people. But it also can create so much energy, so much overwhelmingness in a body. It gets sick, it gets tired, mentally, we start having issues, emotionally, we start having issues because we're not meant to live in this survival state. We're meant to live in this parasympathetic, relaxed state where our body heals, digests, nourishes, restores us, and we feel alive. We have vital energy coming into us. We feel connected. We feel whole. We feel like super person, right? Because we are living in our most safe self, because safety isn't a thought. You can't think your way possibly to say, I'm safe. The body has to feel safe to relax and feel okay. And in this state, we can have our brain, our body functions calmly like it's supposed to in a normal way to keep us well and balanced, and well-being just emits from us. But when we're not in that safe place, sometimes we don't know it. If we've lived our whole life in this unsafe space, we don't know that there's another state of being that we could live in.
yeah, I think that's what you mean by our body is always trying to keep us safe, but but then we're not really conscious about it, right? We don't have any conscious awareness of it. So and then we don't have anybody telling us, like an instruction manual saying that it's okay, and but we just kind of is like an automatic feeling, right? Is there's so much in the subconscious that's
Yeah.
operating. So
Right. And our experiences in life, if I came from childhood trauma, well, more than likely my parents came from childhood trauma. So it is generational. And our coping capacities, if we don't have that caregiver that's understanding and there for us and able to help and support our nervous system to feel safe, nobody's ever safe in that house, right? Nobody there to put you in the place where you can have the utmost well-being and find your place to love yourself and honor yourself. Because in this survival state, everything is a threat. And we also have no kindness or compassion for ourselves, because everything is about, I need to survive and I have to do whatever that takes.
Wow. Yeah. The whole family system, I can just, you know kind of what you're saying, because like you said, you grew up with, alcoholic parents, and it really, with their survival, mode or mechanism, their feelings. And then as a child, you kind of like feel that, in a sense, it's like in the whole family system. And so, so yeah, you mentioned like how, so then your nervous system really is helping you to create and foster that addiction and mental illness. Can you expand more on that with the nervous system? You kind of mentioned that, and I just feel like I like you said, like it's generational. If it's from their grandparents, if your grandparents had some kind of addiction, or if if your parents, like in your case, both were alcoholics. How do you break that mold? How do you break that and bring it up to awareness? And so we can, like this is the Biohacking Addiction and Mental Wellness Summit. So how do you biohack this? How do you break the cycle per se?
Oh, I just love your questions. I just love spending time with you. So let's talk about that. The only person we can really heal or change in this world is us, right?
Yeah, so agree.
Controlling people is one form of dealing with trauma. We think if we can control situations, people, and things, we can feel safe, because it's always about feeling safe, right? It's always about feeling better in your body. But really, all we have control over is this. What is this thinking? How is this feeling? What's going on? So I invite, let's get an understanding of your nervous system, and you start to understand that you have this sympathetic drive, which is your ability to rise up in the morning, prepare yourself, get ready to go. It's your go juice. And it can go from 0 to like terror, right? But it's got like the gas pedal, I call it. We're going to push that gas pedal. Are we going to floor it and spend all our time up here? Or are we going to spend our time down in this break, relaxed, calm, and possibly even heading towards sleep? But there is that beautiful state where we're calm and we're whole, but we still can, have our activity and do our thing, and we aren't activated. So this whole state of understanding, this is in your limbic system. This is your animal side that you don't have a lot of control of. So what I invite people to do, and I'm not going to get into the ventral vagal and dorsal vagal unless you want to, but what I invite people to do is start knowing how this body feels. Check in with yourself. So I'm going to invite you and the listeners right now, check in with yourself. How are you feeling right now? What's your breath doing? What's your heart doing? Can you feel it pumping? What is the tension level in your body right now, right? Is there something you can do to help yourself feel better in your body right now? So I invite people every hour on the hour, set your timer, give yourself a chance to check in. How am I feeling? This is the awareness that starts. This is the building the relationship with you to understand that, boy, when this happens, I start to feel my stomach starts to twist and my heart starts to hurt, and I feel this tension coming on, and my throat might clamp up. Now you're starting to feel yourself. But this takes time because we've learned to suppress it, push it down, ignore it, not feel it.
Mhm.
So we start to develop this relationship of being aware and noticing how we feel. And we're not judging it, we're not controlling it, and we're not being unkind to ourselves. We're simply noticing. So we can start to know, because again, the body's always keeping us safe. So when we start to raise and feel this anxiety and this nausea and all this stuff, the first thing we want to do is push it away. But what we really want to do is we want to start feeling it, to know what's happening to me. Why do I feel this way? And notice how it feels in this body, because it's telling you something. It's giving you a message, right? And also feel when you're relaxed. If you're starting to notice you're really tense, do some breath work. I have tons of tips on my YouTube channel. Do breath work, or do something that one of your resources to help you feel better. But when you're feeling better throughout the day, let that linger. Let yourself feel better longer. Receive more good stuff. Find a way to feel better. Do your resources more often. So that those of us with trauma and addictions and mental illness spend a lot of time in this very high activated state, trying to reduce that. And actually, what I was talking about, the dorsal vagal state, that is the condition, and some of you might understand this, that your insides are so highly wired that the body brake comes on and shuts you down. But inside, you feel this conflict of, I've got so much energy, but I have no energy. I don't care about anything. I wish life would go away. Suicidal, right? Because there's just so much going on inside to try to keep you safe, try to make you aware of what's happening. So I invite people to not only check in, but find ways of being in this parasympathetic state. And that's what I help do as a somatic experiencing practitioner. We build this relationship with the body. You start to love yourself on a level that you start to feel, understand, notice, and start to care about. Let's feel better in this body. And it often requires, we have to feel the emotions that are stuck and trapped in the body. That's why it's a biology-based therapy. It's not in the head, it's locked in the body and in the nerves and in the nervous system. And we release it. And every time we start releasing it, it brings that activity level down, and we start feeling better, and the body starts healing, and the brain comes back on board, and we start going, oh, I'm connecting in a way I didn't realize I hadn't been. And you just build this relationship, and that's how it starts. And we also do this therapy in a very titrated, careful way, so we don't re-traumatize. That's the thing that keeps people away from therapy. We've got to talk about these issues. That just scares me and sends me more into a trauma activation, right? And so we listen to the body, and when the body, and we start feeling better in the body, and we start training it to come down a little, so it's not always up and down, it builds resilience. So it can come up, it can come down. And now we start working on what's really the root of the problem, is the trauma stuck in the body. And so it's a journey like anything, right? It's a journey of self-improvement, self-love, self-exploration, interoceptively understanding yourself at a level that you had to shut down to be able to survive.
That's so interesting, because I love what you said about the biology. Because when I first came into understanding was from the book Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert, and how her story of having the body work, having a massage, and how a trauma that was stored in her body, like you were saying, that it was stored actually in her shoulder area, or that shoulder blade area. And when the masseuse massaged that spot, she actually, like a flashback, like a memory, a childhood memory that was stored, flashed, and she had forgotten about it for many, many years. So I love what you said about that our trauma is actually stored in our body and is stuck, and how we need to, work to feel it, but at the same time not get re-traumatized, because we could get traumatized, if we, I guess, if we don't work at it slowly, or if we judge it, or like you were saying that, we're to feel this feeling, but not to judge it.
And not to let it get overwhelming, which is the facilitator. My job is here. Let's have this safe space, because trauma also doesn't show up if we're not safe. So also we're creating safety in the body and an awareness of the body. And this is all, again, a process. This body needs to learn what it's like to feel safe. And when it feels safe, the healing begins. Just like I said, in parasympathetic, everything heals, but it doesn't happen up here in sympathetic. So we need to be safe. We need to have safe people, which is why we don't heal if we're in an unsafe family environment or in any place. And that's what we're teaching this body is there a place you can feel safe? And if there is, go there as often as you can and start to feel safe, because this is when the body will heal. And this is when the work happens. And that takes time to build this safety and this awareness of our nervous system, and when it is feeling not safe and when it is feeling safe, and how we can respond with that. So it's like this harmonic resonance, right? Because we are electromagnetic beings. And when we're not in harmony, which we aren't if we're in addiction, every cell, every body, everything is out of place. And which is why there's so many physical symptoms that show up with trauma and addictions, because the body stores it. It could mess up your autoimmune. It can mess up your, blood pressure rises. You got heart conditions. You got all kind blood sugar issues, because blood sugar is pumping through your body to keep you moving and fighting. And there's just so many chronic illnesses, as well as anxiety and stress and mental issues that happen when a body isn't safe and it's stuck in this survival energy.
Yeah. So the how to bring our body and ourself to come to this parasympathetic, like you said, to this safety, so we don't feel like we're always trying to survive, trying to just live, and not like, oh, I feel like I'm going to die. I got to run. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that happens, again, unconsciously, right? We can't work to make this happen. What happens is we have to allow it to happen. And that means as we build our relationship with the body, and we start to know how it feels, and we start to let it feel a little safer, and enjoy that and bring it in, the body softens. The body doesn't need to stay in that state. And as that happens, it's an allowing. We can't make this stuff happen. We can't force this autonomic nervous system, or we all would do it. We'd say, well, today I'm going to feel safe and you're going to do it. And boom, we're all going to be healed and happy. And that's not the way it works. First, we have to recognize that something's not right here. Something isn't feel right. And most of us feel broken, but guess what? You aren't broken. You're just stuffed with all this trauma that's overacting your body, overwhelming you and your mind and your emotions. And you don't have the resources or skills to set yourself free. And that's part of this work, is getting those resources, using them, build your body's resilience and capacity so that it can heal and complete all that's creating this stuff in your body.
Yeah. So, and then you mentioned the childhood, obviously the childhood experiences directly influence how you behave and how you feel and how you react. So can you tell me a little more about that?
Yes. So I did go a little into it, and I'd love to talk about the ACE score if we have a chance. When you're very young, your parasympathetic nervous system, which is where we heal and digest and relax and feel very safe and whole and connected to all. And we have right and left brains that are based evenly and balanced, right? we have just a dorsal vagal when we're very young and sympathetic, which is why babies are either crying, sympathetic, or they're probably sleeping or just there, right? But this whole ventral vagal aspect of our nervous system is what takes 17 or more years to mature and myelinate and grow. So because that is so immature, we're very easily startled or scared or put into a traumatic state. And when the ventral vagal comes on board, meaning we've matured it and stuff, you've got the capacity to have smaller intensities, like you'll be relaxed, but then I'm a little irritated, I'm frustrated, now I'm getting angry, now I'm really upset. Those of us with trauma, we go from here to here, like I'm doing good to I'm out of my head and ready to, kill. And that's the trigger response, that when you don't have control over how your body's responded, that is because the nervous system has taken over trying to keep you safe. It's telling you, I feel threatened by whatever you said, I saw or did, and I'm going to attack it because that's survival, right? And we don't have those variations. So in childhood, we get easily traumatized, and the nervous system, if it doesn't have that caregiver supporting it, saying, you're okay, I'm here, and there's this resonance, this coherence that the electromagnetic nervous system and hearts, that caregiver is supporting, myelinating, building a really well-tuned nervous system. But if we didn't have that, we don't have a well-tuned nervous system. And so therefore we live in these states of high arousal, survival, threat. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault that your nervous system didn't have a chance to build a strong place and learn safety. It's not your fault that your caregiver couldn't be there for you to support that. But we can rebuild this. We can heal this. We can do this. You can do this. It just takes time to honor the body, not try to push it, and you honor and love it. And if you had, do you mind if I go over just a few of the ACE questions?
Oh, no, please go ahead. Yes, I would love our audience to know about that.
So this is the ACE score, Adverse Childhood Experiences, which Kaiser Permanente did like in the 20s, this big study of people. So prior to your 18th birthday, did a parent or other adult in the household often or very often swear at you, insult you, put you down, humiliate you, or act in a way that made you afraid that you might be physically hurt? And for every point that you get, your ACE score rises. Your mortality rate probably decreases terribly, and your ability to live a longer life and a healthier life decreases immeasurably in proportion. 2, did a parent or other adult in the household often or very often push, grab, slap, or throw something at you? Were you ever hit so hard that you had marks or were injured? 3, did an adult or person at least 5 years older than you ever touch, fondle you, or have touched you in a sexual way, or attempt to have any sexual experience? 4, did you often or very often feel that no one in your family loved you or thought you were important or special, or your family didn't look out for you or feel close to each other or support each other? 5, did you often or very often feel that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, and had no one to protect you, or your parents were too drunk or high to take care of you or take you to the doctor if needed? 6, were your parents ever separated or divorced? 7, was your mother or stepmother often or very often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or had something thrown at her? Sometimes or often kicked, bitten, hit with a fist, or hit with something so hard and repeatedly hit or threatened with a gun or a knife? 8, did you live with anyone who was a problem drinker or alcoholic or used street drugs? 9, was a household member depressed or mentally ill, or did a household member attempt suicide? And 10, did a household member go to prison? So that's the 10 questions. And most of the people I work with are 6, 7, 8, and 9s. or
Mm.
more, right? I'm very much into that
I
sport.
I can see how if people have experienced that in their childhood, how they could be so traumatized and yeah.
And the
And
trauma, if it rises your nervous system, and if it gets stuck and doesn't complete and go back down, that stays with you until it completes.
mm,
And you don't have the tools as a young person, you don't have the ventral vagal tool in part of your nervous system to help this complete.
yeah, so you mentioned something about somatic experiencing. We have a couple minutes. Maybe we can do like a quick just explanation and exercise so that our audience kind of have a feeling of knowing like what is somatic experiencing as one of the tools to help with addiction and mental illness, to care for ourselves, you know, because we can control ourselves and our own body and our own feelings. So we have a few more minutes, and so maybe I know it's a quick explanation, but just to give our audience a taste, and so they will. Actually, interestingly enough, I actually interviewed a person who went through a somatic experience, and she actually got rid of her pain. So I would love for our audience to have a taste, just a little taste, like an appetizer. To
Okay.
yeah.
So the somatic experiencing is really your ability to allow yourself to feel sensations that show up in your body, which is why we start to be aware of what shows up so we can start to feel them and befriend them. But what I'd like to go through for a little idea is, first of all, if you don't know what activation is like, take a breath and hold it. And hold it for as long as you can, because you'll start to notice your body keeping you safe. The heart rate will start. There'll be signals that I've got to breathe. And then eventually it'll make you pass out. So you will breathe. So if you don't know what activation is like, try holding your breath for as long as you can and notice what shows up and feel it. On the other extreme, let's talk about what's it like to be parasympathetic. And so that might feel like, let's just take a moment and check in with yourself. And then I'm going to invite you to notice yourself sitting on this chair and how much weight is really there. And if you can allow any more weight to be there. And then I'm going to invite you to just do something real quick. Let's check in with the breath, because that's the best way to inform the brain you're safe. So if you wouldn't mind either closing your eyes, or for some of you, shutting off the camera, because honestly, the nervous system is much safer when it's not being seen. You don't have to be evaluated. You're not being judged. You're not having to show up. And if you shut off the camera and don't be seen, the body all of a sudden starts to settle, starts to regulate itself. So just drop inside. If closing your eyes doesn't feel good, maybe just soften them. And drop inside and notice what it feels to be inside the body a little bit. And if you can, bring your eyeballs to the back of the head, draw them back, and let them drop down. And see if there's a response in your body to that. And just kind of notice what your breath is doing without changing it, without controlling it. And notice how much weight is happening in your chair, in your sit bones. Are you like ready to jump out of the chair? Or have you fully landed and that you have weight there and you're prepared to just be here in a very comfortable place, relaxed, settled? And again, we're not changing it. We're just noticing where we're at. And then I'm going to invite you to just notice your breath coming in and coming out. And notice the temperature of the breath as it draws in the nostrils, past the hairs, maybe even hitting the wall of the nostril. And notice the temperature as it comes out. And then I'm going to invite you to notice how the next in-breath coming in, draw it down the windpipe, let it come past the belly button. And if you can, let that draw down into your pelvic bowl and imagine it just rays coming out like the sun. The breath just opens up 360 like the sun rays. filling up that lower belly, and then be with it as your body lets it go. Feel it letting it go, squeezing it out. Stay with the breath as it comes back out and being with it. And let that breath be so interesting that this is where your focus and attention is totally at. And if you feel compelled to notice, oh, I've started thinking again, gently remind yourself, oh, I've lost my breath. Let me come back. Let me feel it come in, drop down into the pelvic bowl. Feel it expand and open. Find places in your body that didn't have breath going into it. Feel it as it leaves. Let it go out. Let it be. Saying goodbye, let it go. No reason to ask it to come back. And bringing it in, maybe you can draw it in a little slower, a little longer, a little deeper if it feels okay. And again, we're not forcing this. We're allowing it. Will the body allow this breath to come in? Can we receive this fuller, deeper breath or not? And can we find ways in our body for this breath to expand and fill? And how does it feel when it does? And as it lets go, how do we feel when we let it go? What happens in our body? What are we noticing? Just be with your breath for a moment more. And then I'm going to invite you to check in again and notice if there's been a state change in your body, like you feel differently in your body right now. And just notice that if you do. And then I'm going to invite you to have the thought that it's time to open my eyes and notice how your body responds before you actually do that. And then I'm going to invite you to open your eyes slowly, transition slowly, and notice how your body responds to the light, to being back on, to being seen.
Wow. I just feel more relaxed just doing that. Yeah.
And so now you know the difference between a relaxed, safe body and a body that's a little activated or maybe even more. So those of you that are really working so hard to be well and working with your mental wellness and your addiction, find out what it's like to be safe in your body. And it's not a surprise if you started feeling a little activated as your body started to relax. That's because your body's trying to heal. It doesn't show up when there's resistance. It doesn't show up when you're not safe. It shows up when you're safe to heal because your body has this innate higher wisdom and it knows how to heal. But all the trauma in our life has taken that away and given us belief systems that make us feel not good enough, not worthy enough, and not capable enough. And it's just a life of getting by. And there is more to life out there of not just getting by, but living with vital energy, life force, vitality, and all of who you were meant to be. And that happens in this parasympathetic state. And I have lots of tips and tools on my YouTube channel, Kathy. More ideas on if you're activated, how to feel better, simple coping tips, on ways of meditation and breathing. I have tons of those as well to start to teach yourself that. Get out in nature. Do what you love to do. Read or be with your pet. What is it that you just love? Spend time doing what you love, and your body starts to get used to feeling the love, feeling the goodness.
Wow, thank you so much. I feel like that was definitely a gift, having that process, experiencing the meditation, the relaxation. That was a somatic experiencing. So thank you. And I
You're
know,
welcome.
yeah, and I know you're so generous. I know you have a free gift for us. And I believe is the free somatic guided meditation.
I do. It's going to be about 30 minutes. And it's 30 minutes of what we did. So it's so much better. And hopefully so hopefully you start to practice this, all of you, and there's deeper levels, right? We've lived in these intensities, but there's these deep levels of relaxation that we don't even know how to get to until we feel utterly safe in our body. So keep practicing, keep doing it. And I hope you'll try my guided somatic meditation, because I think that it could really help you feel better in your body, support your healing, bring you into a new state of wellness.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sharon, for this gift and for this just a 5 minute, just a taste. And where can our audience find you?
Well, my website is creatingserenitynow.com. And there, all my social media, my YouTube, my Google business, all my email is all there if you want to contact me. There's also that ACE score, a link there, as well as a little idea of trauma and what might have happened to you. And so I really want to encourage people to know that you can love yourself and feel better in your body. And your body has a natural capacity in the parasympathetic state. That's your healer. We all have it. We were born with it. So I hope and pray that everybody starts to get this message that, we didn't have a lot of control over how we got here, but we can change it.
Yes, we only have control over ourselves. Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sharon. Thank you for this time. Thank you for this meditation and all your insights. So thank you again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for the invitation, Kathy.